The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. This one has both stories all at the same time, and one DVD to talk about. Now, I've been waiting a long time to talk about this one. I was going to talk about this in October, but I didn't have time for that. So, everybody already talked about this movie on YouTube, and I do mean a lot of people that talk about it, including the Nostalgia Critic himself, and most likely Media Hunter. And you get the idea. Everybody already talked about this movie to death already. So the first one we'll start off with is The Wind of the Willows. There's like simple characters, like Rat, the simple gentleman of being quite intelligent and creature. It's kind of like Sherlock Holmes, and Mo is animal of kindness, of good heart. While Badger is an old business badger who does Toad's taxes. Toad on around carefree and doesn't want to do his own money bank. And with a sidekick horse named Zero, and they're going to nowhere at all and most likely almost make property damage. I would say Mr. Toad is kind of my favorite character in this movie, of how friendly, excitingly rich he is, and wants to have adventures. But Toad refuses to do his tax paying money until he stumbles upon a motor car, and he goes into the so-called, the one of the Willows say, yeah, that makes him go completely bonkers. They forced him to stay in his room, but Toad found a way to get out of it through the window by using cloth blankets, and Toad gets arrested from stealing a motor car. Rat and Mo tried to prove Toad's innocence, including Badger himself, including his other friend, and Zero. I love that line, he says. Anyhow, Zero explains that he'll take the motor car for a good drive, and makes a deal with a bunch of weasels, obviously. He gives me things of evil weasels. Yeah, the bartender is Mr. Winky. You know, in the storybook of Wind of Willows, it's obviously, a weasel, leader. But in this Disney story, he's a human being. Until they made a deal to train the motor car toward Toad Hall. He was so upset he really wanted that motor car for that. But Mr. Winky tells him this line that Toad was about to get out of his way until he says this line here. And with that murky smile of his. So just like that, he's thrown in prison from a crime he did not commit, spending his days in prison for the rest of his life. And I actually feel bad for Mr. Toad on how greedy he is. Fun fact, there was like the judge's daughter that would actually free Mr. Toad from his total judgment day of a crime he did not commit. But on here, it's his good old buddy Zero, and give him a maiden outfit, and tells him a secret. Yep, and we get to like the best part of this movie. You see him, Mr. Toad, dressed up as a maiden lady. And I gotta admit, it's funny. We end up in a pretty cool, awesome chase scene in a train he steals. It makes his heroic escape, and he almost drowns there in progress. Luckily, he made it to a Rat and Moe's place. They're into a holiday, and they think he's proves himself he did not commit the crime. He did. And he thinks it was the police, but it was Badger. And it turns out the leader is none other than Mr. Winky, who got so well. And they have to find a way into the place. But luckily they found like a hidden passageway. Yeah, all the weasels are drunk from drinking. They try to make sure they don't get caught, but when the weasels find a hidden entrance, and they almost succeeded until one of their weasels spotted them, and we end up in a pretty much one of my favorite chase scenes of all time. Fun fact, this is kind of like the same recycled animation chase scene that they used for the Jungle Book. Like nearly 20 years later. And this film came out in the 1940s. They escaped, and luckily Toad got some deed. And we cut to the next story of our chapter, Ichabod. Or what the story is called, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Ichabod Crane is a tall, skinny man, and who visits a place called Green Darker and Scratch Shaw. Strongbones is kind of like Gaston and Prudhomme mixed up. And it's like they've never seen a tall, skinny man before. And to make sure I don't get copyrighted by playing songs. And you get Bob Crane, and was about to harm a kid, but he becomes quite the gentleman and serves him food. But to not make this review go on longer, Ichabod Crane is madly in love with a lady, and wants to overthrow on her grandpa, which makes him kind of a greedy, selfish jerk. Which kind of makes sense that we want to make sure that Strong Bones is basically the good guy, and most likely Ichabod is kind of like I said, a jerk. Our main hero is the lucky one, while our other main character, Strongbones, is basically in trouble at this point in time. They all celebrate in a cabin and start dancing around. And Strongbones tells about the legendary Headless Horseman, and that's like one of the most creepiest stories of this movie's history time. Ooh, that guy's creepy. Yep, he tells a story about the Headless Horseman will chop anybody's head off and throws a jack-o'-lantern towards them. But whoever crosses that bridge, he can't leave. He's that forbidden forest. So Ichabod Crane goes all by himself along with his normal steed. And I gotta admit, when I saw this as a kid, it did terrify me with all the noises and all that stuff happening. A Headless Horseman chases Ichabod Crane. This is like both scary and yet hilarious to watch all at once. I only watched this movie a few times, and it's still pretty great back in the day. Also, it turns out that Headless Horseman's supposed to be Strongbones in disguise. He's making sure he would scare Ichabod Crane, which he does succeed there until the end of the movie, that he gets married. Another fun fact, like in the old VHS tape, they just ended there to make it look like Ichabod Crane died, and that he couldn't dodge the Headless Horseman throwing his fiery jack-o'-lantern at him, thinking he's actually dead, but he's still pretty much alive. So that was Ichabod and Mr. Toad. And I quite enjoyed both of these movies. They were pretty exciting, they were pretty great, simple storylines, great voice casting, pretty much everything you would enjoy to put on movie's running time for like nearly an hour, or two main characters having great adventures and most likely scary things in them. It's pretty promising that most likely great Disney animated films like they did in the 1940s were pretty fun during Halloween's holiday time. And I just love this great opening where we cut to like live action bookshelves toward the animated story. Used to add the movie's running time of being great classic story fairy tales like these ones will always be treasured for generations to come. And great music, great soundtrack. And so everything is quite perfectly well done. I give Ichabod and Mr. Toad a solid 7 out of 10. Thank you all for watching.